of software engineering at Yext. And we have Amani Farki, who is the senior Yext ambassador, and Stephanie Harvey, who is software engineer at Yext. And they'll be talking about rushing to help governments answer citizens' COVID-19 questions. And yeah, during the last 5 minutes of the talk, we'll have a Q&A. If people want to just ask their questions in the chat, you can all answer it at the end. And or if you'd like to reach out to Yext, there's Expo open today, and maybe if you want to reach out to any of the through the, if you just want to share your social media handles for people to reach out to you afterwards, you can do that as well. And if people want to double click on the presentation screen just to see it bigger, you can do that as well. And I will now pass it on to you. Speak to you again.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Sapphire. So like Sapphire said, I'm the director of software engineering at Yext for our consulting team, and I'll let Amani and Stephanie introduce themselves as well.
Awesome. My name is Amani Farouk. I'm a senior Yext administrator and been at Yext for around 3 years. I went to the University of Virginia and studied systems engineering, so held a couple of different roles at Yext, but most recently I've been participating in our and kind of pioneering our Hitchhiker team, which I'll get into a little bit more later, and working on, in particular, these government builds alongside Stephanie.
Yeah.
I would be that, Stephanie. I've been a software engineer at Yext for about 1.5 years now. I went to Virginia Tech and came to Yext immediately after graduation. And I was kind of like the lead developer on a lot of the projects we're going to show you today.
All right. So without further ado, we can start talking about what we're talking about here, which is, you know, when the COVID crisis started, we at the Yext team realized that there was an opportunity for us to help use one of our newest products, Answers, to help out government entities of all different sizes answer their citizens' questions around COVID-19. And the purpose of the Answers product is that the customer journey today starts with a question, and consumers expect direct answers. There's been a significant evolution in search from 15 years ago, when it was you logged onto Google and got a list of links for all of your queries. Now Google provides rich questions or answers to people's questions through structured answers and using structured data, and Yext platform enables brands to do that for themselves. So like a quick demo of Answers itself is on our own website at yext.com, and you can ask it even, what is Yext Answers, and it will give you a direct answer or any other questions related to Yext. And so it seemed like a natural fit to start using the Answers product to help governments when the coronavirus outbreak occurred. And so I'm going to kick it over to Amani to sort of talk about the process of how we work on these answer sites and help optimize
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. So this is really where my team, the Yext administrators, or the quote unquote Hitchhiker team comes in. So our real job is kind of understanding that the landscape of search, answering questions about your business, or in this case, your state, your country, your city, that's ever changing, right? You're not able to kind of create a flat set of content, flat set of answers, and deliver those to your users. So our real kind of basis is the fact that having a good search presence, being able to answer these questions requires continuous optimization. You need to know not only what is your business, what is your government trying to answer, but you also need to know how can we best optimize that with all of the tech, all of the kind of products that Yext has to offer to make sure that people are getting those answers. So if we go to the next slide, the real kind of cycle that we see ourselves in is in this kind of hitchhiker life cycle. So starting out is strategizing, understanding what content we want to have, what answers we need to address. The second is building. So our team, the administrator team, in conjunction with our developers will make sure that we can build an experience that delivers those answers. And then the real kind of effort is on this optimization. So seeing what are people asking, seeing how we can better improve and kind of continue this cycle along. And in particular, my team is kind of enabled to make sure that not only people within Yext are able to have the skills to build these experiences, to understand government needs and business needs, but also we're building a platform to allow anybody who wants to learn this to learn about the Yext platform and how to deploy these solutions. So a quick plug for our Hitchhiker team. If you're interested in learning more, we'll send out information, but you can go to hitchhikers.yext.com and get a bit more context on what skill sets you really need to be able to deliver these. But obviously the most interesting part is to actually see this work in action. So I'll kick it over to Stephanie to walk through one of our first government builds and some of the kind of dynamic pages and experiences that we've built for them.
So one of the first government sites, well, one of the first government organizations that reached out to us was actually like the state of New Jersey. They found out that they were spending a lot of time answering the same questions over and over again through like their support center. So they used answers to actually minimize how much their support center had to answer phone calls and kind of spend time doing that. So their site, this is what we call like the landing page, the first page you hit. You can see in the top, we have like phone numbers that are frequently contacted if you do need to get in contact with somebody. Then there's the alert banner and the answers search bar there. So if you have a question, you can physically type out that question. The autocomplete kind of suggests questions for you. So again, just picked this question. As you can see, you get physical answers back. This is one of the frequently asked questions. So all of this information is actually held in our platform. So New Jersey could go in and change this data and it would immediately be reflected on this site, as opposed to having to contact us and we make a code change to change one of the answers or add more information or anything like that. We also put the date on there as the last time that question was updated. So as you can see, I think this one says the 11th it was last updated. And then again, if you could go back to the landing page. Thank you. We have the top questions, top FAQ questions, kind of in what we call teasers on the landing page. And as you continue to scroll down, you can see top FAQ questions and like links that New Jersey wanted to broadcast to all of their users. And then at the bottom, we actually have a dashboard that will tell you, this was created by somebody else, but we iframed it in, and it'll tell you what parts of New Jersey have been affected the most. And then again, if you'd like to go to one of the FAQ pages, please. Thank you. So on the FAQ pages, we have a button that allows you to copy the link for this article. So if you wanted to send it to somebody else, you could easily do that. And then again, here's the full FAQ. This is an individual page for each frequently asked question. That just provides all the information. If you found this question and you wanted to read more about it, you could do so. But again, you could search in the search bar, which a lot of people, because of COVID-19, have lost their jobs or are looking for a new job. So one of the things that we ended up creating for New Jersey is a job portal, which answers will take you to. In this job portal, you can see all these different companies that are hiring different positions. So if you need to find a new job, you need additional income because somebody else you were dependent on lost their job, etc. This was basically like a place you could go to find a job or people that were even looking. So this is something that we're very proud of because it kind of helps us give back to a community and help them bounce back from this pandemic. So.
And one thing that we'd like to show you guys as well, this is again where kind of that continuous optimization comes into play, is that we're able to gather really rich analytics on what people are searching for. And if you can imagine in kind of a ever-changing environment, especially with news about coronavirus coming, being new every day, and orders being announced by state governments, the kinds of questions that people ask often shift. So we need to make sure that we have a mechanism to see, what are people asking, and are they interacting with content that answers their question? So here we're kind of showing you that constant stream of questions that are coming in. These are actually queries that are coming in and being asked in real time. And we can see when they've clicked on an FAQ or clicked on one of those job portal CTAs, for example, and understand if they're getting to the answer that they need. So by analyzing the data in this way, we can understand, what are we doing really well? What are people getting access to? And then what are we not doing as well? So understanding those different content areas where we can recommend to New Jersey that we add some more information to kind of reinforce that transparency to all of the users of the site.
And the whole part of why this talk is titled Rushing to Help Governments Answer Citizens' COVID-19 Questions is the rather fast timeline it went. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sharing the wrong tab. That we went through in order to launch this site. Amani, I think you were told at like 3:30 or 4 p.m. on March 16th that we were going to start this project, and we're on the call with a client by 5 or 6, and Stephanie and I got involved immediately after, and we started building the site, and we launched both the jobs portal and the Spanish version of the site and the main COVID fact part of the site 5 days later on March 21st at a giant press conference that the governor was having regularly, and we saw more traffic, a larger traffic spike that day than we had seen previously in all of Yext's history, and the pace continued quite quickly with adding essential business direct answers, because that was such a key question that people were asking about what was defined as essential. That New Jersey hit 1,000 entities in the platform a few days later after that, and then by 10 days after launching the jobs portal, we launched a complete redesign of the launch portal, and then added a few days after, like a day after that, launched the New Jersey help page, hit 1 million total searches on the platform, and launched a contact tracing page a month later. And at the same time as we were helping New Jersey, we were helping government entities of all sizes. We launched a similar jobs progress portal for South Bend, Indiana on May 4th, and a similar state level portal for Alabama on April 8th. So we were working on that simultaneously as the New Jersey site. And we launched a Japanese site for it's a Japanese postal service, and I'm going to butcher the name if I attempt to say it, so I'm not going to. And this was to help them with their citizens' COVID questions, launching on May 12th, and then all the way to international organizations like the World Health Organization on May 7th. So as you can see, all of these things were happening simultaneously, and it was the delivery of these sites was largely on the shoulders of Amani and Stephanie. So with that, a lot of what I think is important about this experience for us was sort of what it was like to go through these rapid iteration on all of these sites. And these government sites were different from anything that we had worked on as a team prior to this. And so, Amani, for you, I wanted to sort of get your thoughts on what it was like to work with a client who iterated so quickly.
Yeah, I will say, I'll start off by saying that my perceptions of working with government were completely disconnected from reality, from what I've learned in the last few weeks. I think my impressions were that the public sector works really slowly. They don't really care about technology. They won't get what Yext is trying to do. And with the New Jersey team, it was honestly completely the opposite. So we were working with the New Jersey Office of Innovation. So their kind of MO is really making sure to deliver the best in class solutions to New Jersey residents. And I think the fact that they were so bought into making sure that we're continually adding content, that they were looking at the queries daily, that they were figuring out different pages that they could launch for different areas. I think that was a complete shift in my usual client dynamic, where I'm always bugging the client like, hey, everyone's asking this, can you please answer? Or I really think you should do XYZ. So it was really nice to have a partner that was working so quickly and wanting to develop so quickly. That said, I think I had never worked on such a kind of crunch timeline, and in a situation where, you know, the answers are really impacting people. In kind of the business context, you know, if someone doesn't get an answer to a menu item that just was added, you know, that's a little bit different than making sure that someone knows where to get tested. So I think the urgency was really unique in that it drove a lot of this kind of innovation, but also was, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, very stressful at times.
And so Stephanie, like, how for you were these clients different, working with these government clients different from how you work with your typical?
I think very similar to Amani, honestly. Like, I think the overall impression of working with the government is that everything moves so slowly because they have to go through all these hoops. But New Jersey definitely was not that way. I mean, still now they're wanting to add things to the site constantly, and they'll tell us in the morning they want to add this. I get it done as soon as possible, and we send it to them, and 10 minutes later they're like, all right, cool, let's go live. Which is great because you actually, like, at the end of the day, you're like, I started something this morning and I finished it this afternoon. That's a great accomplishment. Whereas, like, again, like Amani was saying, some people, it takes them a while to do like QA or make sure it's exactly what they want, or they have to go talk to 10 people, and then they'll come back to us and be like, we want to launch it in 2 weeks. But I think New Jersey, as well as the fact that this was extremely important to them and they saw the immediate impact, they really wanted to move quickly. And as a developer, like, I really enjoyed doing that, like, quick, fast-paced work. So.
And so, you know, I think one of the things that's interesting on this and similarly unexpected is most of these sites that we worked on launched within like New Jersey was a 5-day timeline, and several of the other sites were not much longer than that, maybe 10 days. So I think, what was it like for you both to turn around these major infrastructural websites for people in such short timelines?
I can start off with money. I would definitely say stressful. There was a lot of late nights that we pulled to get it done, but it was pretty cool seeing everybody work as a team to get things turned around extremely quickly. If as a developer couldn't finish something, I knew Ben would be there to have my back, or I could pull in another developer and they would be there to help me finish it in time to get it back to the client. Again, it's cool seeing something go live so quickly, but it is also very stressful having to throw it all together in the span of 3 days. I don't know about Amani, but it was stressful, but in a good way. So
yeah, and I would say, you know, working with kind of typical clients, there's a lot of nice to haves that get introduced into the process. So for a launch, you know, they might take a week to QA, add an additional feature that they want to do, and it's just kind of like not really adhering to our philosophy of launching fast and making sure that we use data to optimize from there. But with these kind of crunch timelines, we were honestly able to be quite frank with our clients and say, you know, we recommend XYZ for launch, and be a bit more prescriptive there, so that we could be aligned out of the gate and move quickly. So I think that kind of afforded us a lot of flexibility, having the government's trust in Yext and trust in what solution we were delivering. We were able to kind of get to that finish line a lot faster than might typically happen.
Yeah. And I think a natural follow-up question would be, when were you sleeping during all of these launches?
We weren't. Yeah.
It was a fun time. Thankfully, due to lockdown and stay at home, there wasn't too much else going on to distract us. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of, like Stephanie said, late nights and weekends, making sure that everything was up to snuff.
There was a lot of coffee consumed for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and since we've been talking a lot about how this compares to what our typical clients are, like usually, Amani and Stephanie, how long does it take us to get a client live on Answers or these Pages sites?
I know our Pages implement. So Answers is the search side of it, whereas the Pages is the landing page, the FAQ, individual pages, as well as some other pages that we have and didn't quite have time to show today. But usually building a site this large would probably be 3 to 4 weeks of development alone, not even taking into account how much work is done before trying to get data into the platform and everything for us to use for development. Which Amani can then speak to the Answers side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of pre-work before we get into development is, things like creating designs and making sure that we have a good understanding of their data model and populating all their content to be ready for development. And yeah, with these clients that happened in maybe, 1 or 2 days, usually that process is 2 or 3 weeks to go through a design period, a week or 2 to actually gather the content and structure that on the platform, and then we go into the development. So for Answers sites alone, for just that kind of site search component, it is typically 3 to 4 weeks. But then if you think about the complexity of the pages that we built as well, a normal build like this probably would have taken 2 to 3 months. So definitely we're able to cut down that timeline a little bit for these government builds.
I think it was also interesting because we did it in about 5 days. We had design going on at the same time as development.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I would build the page that was designed, and then we'd get feedback, and they'd be like, we want to change this. Then the design would change, and I'd have to readjust. And it was a very fluid design development process. So.
Yeah, and I remember because at the beginning because you took a couple of days off right as we were attempting to launch New Jersey because of scheduled leave, and so I was backing you up. And for the FAQ directories, we implemented it 3 different times based off of different changing requirements about how we were trying to display things. So it was definitely very iterative. So what was something that you've gotten to do for these clients that you haven't gotten to do for others in the past?
Personally, mine would be work with Answers. Since Answers is one of our newer products, I haven't worked on a client that did Answers before. So getting to learn more about the Answers product and how we integrate it with Pages was pretty cool. But I also just think the necessity for information to be right is probably the thing that I found the most interesting. Is you have to make sure you're getting the right data from the right place for each field. So.
Yeah, I think for me, this is a somewhat trivial thing, but this is the first time that I used Slack to communicate with a client. I think that kind of just speaks to the kind of rapid nature of how we were able to communicate really quickly to get these up, because I think for, a lot of the requests, it was something that, someone on the New Jersey side would ping us in the morning. We would go back and forth quickly on what the right solution was. In the afternoon, Stephanie would build, and then in the evening we would launch. And that is really difficult to foster if you're not either in person working together, or if you're doing it kind of gets a bit slower if you're just communicating through email or scheduled calls. So I thought that was really important to be able to kind of make it more of a collaboration rather than a client vendor kind of relationship to get this up and running quickly.
So what do your friends and family say when you tell them about the work you've been doing since you've been stuck at home?
Yeah, I think for me, so my dad is he works in public policy, and I think trying to convey what I was doing previously, like, you know, building a site for financial advisors or something like that, wasn't truly resonating as something that could be impactful. But when I was able to share that we were building a site for New Jersey, where we actually lived when I was growing up, that kind of drove it home and made it easier to communicate, you know, not only what were these builds doing, but what does the technology underlying it that you know, Stephanie and I work on, what can that actually be used for and how impactful that can be. So I think it gave a really good tangible site or you know, example that helped explain a little bit more to people what I do.
On my end, actually, a couple days before lockdown, where like states started closing borders and everything, I was actually in Napa with one of my friends who's graduating this year, and she is from New Jersey. So after I came back from that and lockdown happened, it was a couple days, I think it was actually that week, we started development on this site. So she was talking to me, she was like, oh, I'm so bummed, like we're not in California anymore. And I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm sad too, but I'm working on this site you're actually going to probably use. And she didn't ask any follow-up questions. And then a couple like weeks later, she's like, oh my God, I just realized you built like the New Jersey site that my whole family's been using. So it was pretty cool. Like people that I knew that I had said something about it, they were like, oh, 100%. Like I've been using that site. It's very impactful. My friends are using it. Like everybody in New Jersey is really counting on it. So it was kind of a sense of pride. Like I did that and it means a lot to such a large group of people. So.
And so I guess just to close out our part and open it up for Q&A from the rest of the folks on the session, what was something that you've gained from doing these projects together?
Do you want me to start it off, Amani?
Yeah, you go for it.
All right, I got it. I think honestly, it is a sense of achievement, which like there's always a sense of achievement when you build a site, it goes live. But seeing the spike in how many people are using this site, especially after his press conferences, the governor's press conferences, sorry. It's very like, I don't know, fulfilling to see how much you can actually do and how you can really help people through something like this, which doesn't seem that big, but in the grand scheme of everything, like it's helping a lot of people. So.
Cool. Yeah, I think for me, as cheesy as it sounds, I think that I really got away from this, the true power of collaboration. I think none of this would have been possible if, you know, Steffi and I and McGinn and I didn't have a close line of communication with what the client wanted. You know, we needed to have that direct communication with New Jersey as well. And then there were also a lot of other kind of product areas that we wanted to make sure could handle this load and could handle the kind of requests that were coming in. So we were kind of connected through all parts within Yext and all parts within the New Jersey team. And I think without that, it would have made it really difficult, especially if we ran into roadblocks, you know, without being, you know, in the kind of nitty gritty of it. It's easy for someone like New Jersey to say, no, I would just solve it. But because we had those open lines of communication, I think that's why the project was and continues to be a real success.
Yeah, I think that was, for me as well, really because it was things seemed so bleak at the beginning, like of the crisis when we started working on this project. Being a part of something that was really like cross company at Yext, like while it's just the three of us at the call on this presentation, there were definitely dozens of people across multiple organizations within Yext involved in launching this, and seeing the whole company or work towards a goal in that way was really impressive. for me, and something I really am proud of being able to do. So with that, I think there's about 5 minutes left in the time period for questions from everyone on the chat. If anyone has anything they'd like to ask about the presentation or anything. Sapphire, I don't know if if there's any questions in the chat or anything that we should look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please ask in the chat. Or if anyone would like to reach out to you all, what would be the best way for people to ask you questions? Where could they reach you?
Sure, I can. I'll share out my email, my Yext email.
I can do the same as well.
Yep, me as well.
Awesome. And then if people have want to reach out to you directly afterwards, they can as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay.
And if anyone's interested in learning more about Answers and how you can configure it, we're opening up our Hitchhiker program in a few months or weeks. Amani, you know the
Yeah,
timeline.
it'll be in a few months, but definitely go to hitchhikers.yext.com. You'll get a bit more context on, you know, what my team does in particular, what you could learn from kind of configuring the data side to building the Answers experience to kind of the HTML, CSS, handlebars, all that technical knowledge that you might need to create some of these sites and get in building these.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben, Amani, and Stephanie. This was an absolutely awesome talk, and I really enjoyed it. It was great to see how you built this product and how you all worked as a team. And yeah, the product is absolutely amazing that you've built as well. So I thought the job portal was really cool, and which allows like companies allows companies to post any information about any jobs that they have, and like the fact they're hiring. And it's really great to see that you keep helping governments and their people during this pandemic. So yeah, it was a fantastic talk, and I learned a lot from it. So well done, it was really good. And yeah, so if anyone wants to reach out, they added their emails here to the chat. And yeah, so I encourage you all to connect afterwards and keep the conversation going. Yeah, so thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.